What's that for?
I think you know what it's for.
What's it for?
Let's let everybody know where we are. So we are in our backyard. I know that we said that we were going to do like cool little pop-ups around town, but I thought that this was the most fitting place to do this segment. Please get that on camera. Please, please, please. Like the way he flips his hair.
Yeah, like his
beautiful.
little hair. He looks like a little unicorn.
It looks like a little unicorn.
Oh, Sam.
So,
Okay, so you thought it would be fitting to do it here.
Yeah. We're talking about kind of something that was pretty impactful to us as a family, certainly impactful to you. And so thought that just because of that, it'd be best to do it here. So just a quick little PSA reminder. Part of the reason that we're doing some of these episodes is to give people an idea or a better idea of like who we are.
Yep.
Right? At the end of the day, as much as we love what we do, there's a realness to our life that I think is important to kind of highlight. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make it in all the things.
Obviously, we're very normal / unnormal.
Yep.
Not normal.
Unnormal.
We're very unnormal.
All right. So I'll start it off and then I'm going to turn it over to you and we'll just kind of see where this goes. So a couple years ago, 2019 to be exact, we were in the middle of trying to, or at the beginning stages of trying to figure out how to get this business started, right? Amongst many other things, like my full-time job, your role as a mom, like trying to cover down all those things.
Right.
And there was a spot on your finger. We'll just jump into it. There was a spot on your finger that for the most part we considered as just more annoying than anything else.
Right.
And you had decided to finally get it checked, right?
Right. After a very long period of time, yeah.
Very long period of time, yeah. So let's walk through, you talk through kind of how all that came about and then, you know, obviously the aftermath of what was going on.
How it came about as far as...
Yeah, so you have the spot on your finger, you're like, I should probably go get this checked out.
Yeah, so go get it checked out. And it's crazy to even like talk about it again because it's like trying to remember exactly like the series of events and how it took place. But like having 4 little kids, and I remember like trying to go to the doctor and get it taken care of was really kind of inconvenient because they would like freeze it, burn it. They were like, they didn't really seem very concerned. They thought it was like some kind of little infected spot on my finger.
Yep.
So like fast forward it was like another year really.
Yep.
That got it treated probably 3 times in between that. And then remember they were like, yeah, I don't really think that what we thought it was is what it is. We need to send you to a dermatologist.
Right.
Then they remove it. And I kind of remember in that moment being like, should I be more concerned about this thing than what I really am? You know, like, okay. But I remember them being like, oh, in like 2 weeks, you'll get the results back.
Yeah.
Well, remember it was like 4.
Yeah.
It was like 4 weeks. And I'm like, Sean, I kind of feel like something's off. Something ain't right.
Yeah.
So then.
Yeah, I remember.
You were working that day. Remember that I got the call?
I remember being relatively dismissive of the whole thing.
Right.
Because I was just focused on trying to get the business started and you know, just ultimately doing what I do best and just distracted by lots of other things, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we both were.
Yeah. We just didn't think it was anything.
No.
So, all right. Yeah, I remember. So it was
New Year's
Eve of 2019. So New Year's Eve of 2019.
Which, I mean, like, who calls and tells somebody that?
Yeah,
like,
Happy New Year. You have
cancer. You could at least have waited. Well, I mean,
so
hindsight, whatever.
Yeah. So I'm working shift work,
Yep.
right? I'm checking into work. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I remember getting a call from you, and you just let it out of the bag.
Yeah.
So what did the doctor call and say to you?
So I remember when the doctor called, I still was kind of just like, surely it's not anything. Surely it's going to be just a little spot they're going to shave off, give me maybe a stitch, and I'll be on my way. Everything will be normal.
Yeah.
And that was not what I heard in her voice. Like, it was like the minute I picked up the phone and she had this seriousness in her voice that was like, hey, Miss Bowser, you know, you have melanoma and it's pretty serious. It's a more invasive case. We're going to do a scope to check all your lymph nodes, surgery. But thankfully, we do have things that we can treat it. So I mean, it's not going to be like life or death. There is things that we can do to treat it. And I remember just being like, whoa. Like, what the heck? What are we talking about here? Like, went from one extreme to the other.
Pause. Okay, so I think it's important to highlight, because you and I talked about this yesterday. Melanoma, there are multiple forms of melanoma, and it's
In
not
stages,
that
yeah.
uncommon to lots of people's stories, you know, sun,
Right.
skin cancer, hand in hand.
Basal cell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and
like all
and so when you called me and you said, hey, I have melanoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
My immediate thought was, oh, well, it's just something that they're going to scrape off like every other melanoma case that I've ever heard of.
Right.
And then, you know, we'll just watch it and everything's fine. We continue with life.
Right.
However, as much as they said we got stuff to treat it, it's not life or death. I remember talking to the dermatologist later that evening, and I said to her specifically, like, hey, when you look at her case, what is from your perspective, I know you see a lot of these, what is the oh shit factor for you? Like, what is it that you look at, if any at all, what is it that you're looking at to say, man, this is a big deal? And she said there are two things. Number one,
Ulcerated.
it's been on her finger a long time, and it is growing rapidly. It has rabbit feet, is what she said.
Yep.
And so, much like many people's melanoma cases where it just grows superficially, yours was growing down. Mm-hmm. And where it wasn't your finger, there's not a lot of skin. And because you look like that, there's not a lot of meat there either, right? So I remember that being the, like, oh man, like something,
Yeah.
this is
like,
gonna be bad.
This is a little more serious than I think maybe we both thought.
Yeah. Because even now when we tell people, like, yeah, Kay had melanoma, we hear all the time, like, oh yeah, my mom had melanoma, or I had melanoma, or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, yep, got it. Mm-hmm. However, this was a big deal.
Right.
I remember, you know, from there talking through, like, the oncologist literally telling us, like, hey, this type of cancer will go metastatic in 6 weeks. And you've had it on your finger for over 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a matter of if we're going to find it somewhere. It's
when.
It's where. It's where. Right? Remember?
Yeah.
They were just like, it's somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were your immediate thoughts on, like, that news? Because life is crazy for us in that season, right? Like, we're
Right.
trying to get everything set up, you know, trying to make deals, trying to network, trying to get the trucks built, like all this stuff. And then boom, everything changes.
I think, honestly, I was angry. And I feel like I was in a place in life where, like, everything was good. We had a business that we just launched, 4 kids. And I felt almost like my world just completely got turned upside down.
Yeah.
Like, wanted to isolate from everybody. It was hard for me to even be around, like, you and the kids, because it was a reality of, like, what's the point? I'm probably going to die anyway, you know? And not to be morbid or a downer about it, but that was just the reality that I struggled with in that season of my life, where it was like looking at the kids was hard to be present and intentional. As much as I tried to fight it, it was, well, what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
And not knowing the severity of it. I mean, because when we got that call, fast forward, we had to wait like 3 more weeks, you know, before I could have surgery, before I got scans, before we really knew how invasive it was.
Yeah.
So sitting there really for like 3 weeks and looking at you, looking at the kids, looking at our life, it was just really heavy and really depressing, honestly.
I think what's hard is that it's like these are the cliche of like, this isn't supposed to happen to us. Like this is another family's story. Like this happens to other people. It doesn't happen to us. And it's
super ignorant to think that. It's ignorant to think that because life happens.
Yeah.
Whether you want it to or you don't. Like, I mean, people get hit with terrible news all the time.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you never think it's going to hit home to you.
Yeah.
And you just are continuing life until all of a sudden it just, boom.
Yeah.
You know, rickrolled by life.
So timeline of events is we find out January 1st, December 31st, January 1st of 2020. So, I mean, that was the onset. I mean, when you say 2020 now, everyone shudders because of what 2020 was, but that was here's how we're breaking into the new year.
Yeah.
You have cancer and it looks really bad, right?
Right.
So that happened, and then it was a flurry of events of we need to get brain scans, CT scans, bone scans, PET scans, X-rays. We had to schedule a surgery, or you had to schedule a surgery, like all these things. And what's crazy is that from the time you found out to the time you had that thing removed, it was 16 days. You had your surgery on January 16th. And although it was only 2 weeks, it was like an eternity. Remember, it was just like, we called it the weight of the wait, because that's what it is. It's we got to wait for this test, and then we got to wait for those results. And the weight of that waiting was, I mean, almost unbearable.
Yeah.
And as much as you walked around here like, you know, what's the point?
Right.
Right? Like, I walked around here like what's going to happen? Like, what would I do? What would I do without you? And what's even crazier, and I think people that have walked through similar stories, whether it's cancer or something else like traumatic, right?
Right.
Everything that was important to us when we woke up on New Year's Eve, everything that was important to us that morning, by that evening, didn't matter anymore.
Right. Like, honestly, the only thing that mattered were you and the kids.
Yeah.
And obviously my family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Business, I remember just being like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. I don't know what the future's going to look like. It just was heavy and it was hard, you know?
Yeah. So is that what you would say? So like, let's say, and we've met, interesting enough, we've met a handful of people that have similar stories. I mean, we have neighbors that have similar, honestly got diagnosed about the same time that you did. I mean, like, what would you say would be like your post experience wisdom that you would impart on them? Like, what would be something that you'd be like, hey, don't forget?
I would say that just life is short. Life is short and you have no idea what tomorrow's going to look like, whether you have cancer or you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get in a car and something horrific happen, you know? We have friends that have lost children, you know? It's like because of sicknesses. So it's like, enjoy the right here, enjoy the right now, and don't take advantage of the time that you do have with the people that you love.
Yeah.
Focus on the things that genuinely matter and are important in life. Of course, go after the things that you're passionate about, right? But this isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
It isn't, you know, I love it. I enjoy doing it with you. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like those things ultimately just don't carry the weight as much as you and the kids.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know if many people know this, but like we moved down here and we had no family here. We still have no family here. It's just our crew. So in that season, let's talk about kind of what we were surrounded with, and how we navigated just the weight of the weight.
I mean, obviously our church is hugely instrumental in all of that, in all the different aspects of our life and different things that we've gone through, but they were huge in this one in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, from them having people come over, I mean, it was, I think, like a week before my surgery, they all came over. There's, remember, like 20, 25 people that just came over, prayed with me, tried to encourage me, brought food, just loved on us as a family.
Yeah.
You know, and that, to me, looking back, was so huge and exactly what I needed in that moment, even though I pushed it away because I felt like it was the safe thing to do, to put up a wall to keep the people I love from getting more hurt and to keep me from getting more hurt by getting close with people only to potentially leave, you know? But I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I would not have isolated myself, but that in that season of my life felt like the most normal thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's really a big deal to kind of like highlight that none of that was intentional.
No.
Right? Like
No,
so you're in this weird space of like,
I didn't even feel like we were doing it. It was literally just like over a period of time, we went from being like super close with all those people to just, and I mean, they continued to keep showing up.
Yeah.
They continued to keep sending texts, you know, praying for you guys. We're here if you need anything. But because of where we were, I think just the heaviness of it all and just feeling alone, even though we weren't.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it like it was just kind of a natural reaction to trauma. So you get the news and it's this weird kind of like catch-22 of, you know, that you want and need people around you, yet at the same time you are quietly, whether you realize it or not, putting up walls and barriers to just cover down, protect, and take care of the things that you feel matter most, right? So we kind of pushed everybody out while still wanting everybody to be in. Like the craziest thing about the story, outside of like how everything turned out, was how that kind of mentally, socially, psychologically takes place, to where you know that you need a ton of people around you to help walk you through that, and yet at the same time you just want to protect this, as if we had any semblance or sense of control over anything. Like it was just it was going to be what it was going to be, you know. All right, so we get the news, we go through all the scans, and I remember we started the Facebook page, the Pray for Kay page, right? I think is important in this story to highlight like just how instrumental our faith was in that moment. Right. And hitting the high notes. I remember every single scan we put on that thing, or on our page, like we pray for 3 specific things. We just ask people to like pray for these 3 specific things. Right. And you remember the doctor was like, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of where. Right.
They were confident that it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the most impactful thing to me was just watching how every single one of those scans, clean. It's not in your brain. It's not in your bones. It's not in your lungs. It's not your lymph nodes, right? And then you go through, you have your surgery on January 16th. They remove it, and then that just sets us on a trajectory now of, they got clean margins, so the surgery went well. Everything internally looked clean. And for me, I expected at that point in time to just be like, all right, we're good. Like we're good.
Right.
Not
realizing the aftermath of what all that would entail moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shot to the face post-op for me, and I think I posted about it, was that I remember your oncologist saying like, hey, here's how this is going to go. You have a 20% chance of it coming back. which from a different perspective means you have an 80% chance of it not coming back.
Good perspective.
But moving forward, now we have to do scans every 3 months, PET scans every 3 months, CTs every 3 months.
Yeah.
And what's hard is every 3 months, it's that painful
Feeling all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just,
Yeah.
it kind of just rips the Band-Aid right back off. But
Yeah.
I think honestly, the importance though that we've learned over the past 3 years
Yeah.
is that it's just like, okay, God's got us. He showed himself faithful 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I trust him. I'm not going to live in fear. I want to be present, trying to not isolate, trying to be vulnerable, open, honest with you, with the kids, with where we're at. Because I mean, they walk through it in their own way. You know, they walk through their struggles with seeing me go through all that, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to trust that he knows what he's doing and he has a bigger plan,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, look, I love you.
I love you.
I'm glad you're still here.
Oh, well, thanks. Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Smooch. Cheers.
Cheers.